Thank you, Dr. Wises. I'm confident to say that our audience has acquired a new knowledge from this whole sessions, and we would now be open to any questions from the floor. To start with, we actually have questions from our audience on will colostrum be absorbed in the small intestine after passing by the stomach exit, and how much percent it's being absorbed?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And there has been a couple studies that have been looked at this. It depends on what components that you're talking about. And really, for the most part, there's so many components in bovine colostrum, it's hard to analyze and understand what all components make it through. But there's been studies done on the immunoglobulins and what happens to them throughout the digestive tract. And what you find is that you have at least 50% of them that make it to the end of the small intestine. So they're able to go from the mouth through the stomach, do what they need to do there, as well as in the small intestine. And then half of it is remaining to then go through on through the large intestine. So it really stays intact throughout while interacting throughout the whole intestine.
Right. Thank you for your explanations. And we have a follow-up questions on how many percent of bovine colostrum is the same as human colostrums, and is it as effective compared to human colostrums?
Yeah, so that's a very good question as well. So it has a lot of the same components as you would imagine. It's a really nice comparison to be made. Now there are some slight differences, but the effectiveness of bovine colostrum compared to human colostrum has not been tested. That certainly would be very interesting to know, but it does help to provide some of those components that you would find in colostrum. But certainly it's not a replacement for human colostrum.
What about the concentration of IgG affect the dosage of colostrum consumed? And since the lowest dosage tested was only like 500 milligrams and some up to only 20 grams.
Would the concentration of IgG affect the dosage of colostrum consumed? So it all depends on what you want to gain from the colostrum. So we have different versions of colostrum with different levels of IgG, but there are other components in there as well. Certainly the more that you take, the more IgGs that you would consume. So that does affect that. So for example, let's say you have there 500 milligrams and it's 30% IgG, just as an example. So then you could easily calculate how many IgGs that you would have in that dose. So it does come down to how much IgG is in there, how much you want, and the dosage. So you could go with a higher IgG content of colostrum if you need to.
What about the maximum heat sensitivities for colostrum then?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
What about the maximum heat sensitivity?
Okay. Yeah, so for heat sensitivity, again, it depends, like the question around the how much makes it intact through the small intestine and the large intestine. With heat, it really depends on the components. So some of the components, like the oligosaccharides, are not heat sensitive. Some of the small proteins are not. Now, IgGs are sensitive, but it all depends on really the temperature, how high it is. So really high temperatures. Or how long it is. So it can certainly handle heat, but it's really those longer exposures, hours of time that can impact it. So, hopefully that answers that question. And it does, depend on, what components. Not all the components are heat sensitive.
Right. We actually understand that colostrum is actually backed by any clinical studies. And we just want to make sure that if it's carried out by APS itself or it's just the clinical studies.
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's hard to know which colostrum the studies use, as they typically don't describe. Given that we've been supplying the market for so long, I would not be surprised if a lot of those studies do include our colostrum. It's just hard to know just because they don't disclose it. We do have plans to do our own trials in the future. We haven't done those yet, but certainly in the plan.
And does producing colostrum products in liquid form will actually have a lower benefits compared to the powder form?
So it all depends, really. You know, the powdered form, you're going to have higher concentrations of the components like the immunoglobulins, you know, versus, so let's say a liquid. But a liquid could be a convenient way to consume it. So it's all about how much of those components are in that liquid. So you would just have to, you know, ensure that you're providing the similar level of components, if you will, in that liquid.
Great. And when we talk about technology, if there is any technology used during the productions of ColostrumOne and preserving their nutrients content, and were they being patented?
So that's a good question. We, you know, all along the way from the dairy farm to, you know, the end product, we take very great care to ensure that the bioactive components are intact. And our processing technology to dry the colostrum ensures that it's gentle enough to not impact that. So as far as, you know, patented, it's really more of a trade secret, if you will. So we don't have that patented, but it's more of a trade secret. We certainly take those precautions as we go through and produce our products.
Great. I will have another question on the difference between skim colostrums with the normal colostrum powders.
I'm sorry, Angelina, I didn't quite get that.
What's the difference between skim colostrums with the normal colostrum powder?
Sure. So I'm taking the question as skim versus, let's say,
a whole probe.
Yeah. The general.
Yeah. So you know, as the name would indicate, the fat of the colostrum is removed, and what that does is it allows you in the skim version to have higher levels of immunoglobulins. So in the skim version, you know, we can offer up to 30%, whereas, you know, in the whole colostrum, you know, it's lower. So that's the advantage of that. So, you know, that's really the main difference.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Weiser, for your detailed explanations. And we apologize that we might not be able to take in any more questions due to the time constraints. And fear not, we will follow up on your questions and get back to you at the soonest. Once again, on behalf of NexusWise, I would like to thank APS team members, Stacy, Dr. Weiser, CS, and Popwat for your professional sharings and also co-hosting us on these sessions. Besides, we would like to thank all our participants for taking time out of your busy duties to attend. I observe your excellent participations and also active discussions, so I can conclude that the purpose of the webinar has been completely accomplished. Please do contact our sales representative or reach us at the numbers and also email address below to further assist you. Besides, we can also provide samples for your internet evaluations, and I would like to close my remarks and officially announce the end of the webinars. Again, if you have not subscribed and like us on our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, please do so to keep yourself updated. Till we meet again, stay safe, take care, goodbye.